ladies and gentlemen of the jury, on whether or not the Bible is truly the infallible Word of God, or if it is merely the fallible and incomprehensibly imperfect Word of man, as this book, the Holy Shit of the Bible, makes the case for. I greet you today with tidings of joy and gratefulness for these 8 orders that just came in, so let's pack them up together. Well, to all of you that have purchased the book through the TikTok shop, I owe you a huge thanks. You've officially run me dry on all the good copies, except there are still 2 unblemished hardcovers, as Yahweh would have preferred, in my TikTok shop. The remainder, unfortunately, all have incurred some real light damage, and thus you can save quite a bit if you don't mind some slight issues. I apologize. I received some various batches at a time, and Amazon KDP, that prints and publishes the book, did indeed refund me for quite a bit of the hardcovers, but not on the paperbacks. So anyway, I encourage you to still check them out. They're really not that bad at all, and as the listing states, the interior and pages are all perfectly intact and fine. So there's just some odd minor issues and odd markings on the front or maybe the back, such as you can see here. I'll show you. Stuff like this. Maybe you can see like these hardcover scuffs and marks. Some corners maybe that might not be just right. Maybe at the top. So, wouldn't worry about it, but nothing that will impede your studying of the Word of God. And while we're on that note, let's discuss this Word of God, shall we? A friend and I were discussing the veracity of the supposed Word of God, and something you've probably heard me say on many instances is that, simply put, the Bible has to be the Word of God, because if it is not, then every jot or tittle, as Jesus may have said, is not just suspect, but certainly unworthy of placing one's faith in, to say it nicely. There's a lot of trigger-happy folks out there, so I got to say these things nicely. I get lots of wonderfully detestable messages that come my way that, as always, simply expose the true nature and supposed love of these Bible supporters, believers, and adherents, whether it be Christian, Jews, Muslims, or any of the many others. But getting back on track here, in order to place your faith in the words of the Bible, embracing it as the infallible Word of God, that would be Yahweh, one must thoroughly understand just what this book and this God have to say. The Holy Shit of the Bible breaks it down and makes it very easy to access, containing 75 of the best obscenities, absurdities, and atrocities from the good book. And to name a few that make this embracing of Yahweh just a little difficult, at least for me, we have a God who places enormous emphasis on the appendage of the man. A God who makes his ultimate servant, Abraham, the father of today's 3 major religions, asking him to murder his son by burning him to death. A God who took great pride in murdering the firstborn sons and animals of the entire nation of Egypt, insomuch that he commanded that it be celebrated in perpetuity. And his followers, of course, have done a great job in celebrating this disgusting holiday right up to this very day, and that's known as Passover. How about a God who disallows you to enter his assembly and offer him animal sacrifices if you happen to have damaged testicles? And on that note, how about a God who needs animal sacrifices at all? One who calls the burning flesh of an animal a sweet savor in his nostrils. How about a God who ruins your love for seafood and bans all shellfish, or of course the more widely known banning of pork, or any animal who doesn't have a cloven hoof or chews the cud? Or how about a God who threatens the judgment of starvation, so unbearable that parents will eat their own children, and even children will eat their own parents, unless, of course, they decide to obey and follow all his commands? Well, I could go on and on. We can memorialize how Yahweh requires the murdering of homosexuals or the murdering of anyone who works on the Sabbath, or how about Yahweh calling on the community of Israel to stone to death anyone who uses his name in vain? Well, let's lighten it up a tad. Yahweh requires that you put 4 tassels on the 4 corners of your garments. And also, never wear a garment mixed with wool and linen. You got to also hand it to Yahweh, thinking of every possibility when it comes to 2 men fighting. He makes sure to hand down this one as law. If 2 men are fighting and the wife of one tries to intervene and just so happens to grab the testicles of the one fighting her husband, cut off her hand. Show her no mercy. Fatality. Anyway, remember, as God said, never touch a woman who is menstruating, or you will be unclean. And also, never sit where a menstruating woman has sat. And speaking of you women dearly treasured within the Bible, a book that ranks very high as the most overtly misogynistic book in print. If you don't bleed on your wedding night, proving a broken hymen, of course, and your husband gets a little irritated and decides to raise a bit of a ruckus, and your parents cannot produce the clean sheets as proof, yeah, you're getting stoned to death by the men of the town, and not just anywhere, but right there on the doorstep of your father's home, that the evil be purged. Well, isn't God wonderful? Such a loving God. Praise be to Yahweh. So friends, I'll be hoping to restock the shop soon. But again, wouldn't worry too much about the smaller imperfections on these covers. I really mean it when I'm constantly saying how much I really appreciate your support. I'm always available if you're needing someone to talk to regarding deconstructing or deconverting. Get in touch anytime. Much love to you and yours, and see you next time. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.